Some people say that, straddling the line is really how they feel, but coming from a multiracial background, I feel extremely fortunate because I feel like I'm able to understand both cultures rather than being excluded from either of them.
Well, first of all, people like to ask, what are you? Because they think that's okay to ask, and I actually think it's really inappropriate. But also people like to ask, well, which one are you really? Which one do you identify with more? Most often people will not ask it in such a nice term. They'll say more like, which one are you more? Are you more white? Are you more Asian? Are you more black?
What's funny is that people tend to perceive me to be so many different races and ethnicities, and it's interesting to see how they try to figure out what race I am, and it's fortunate that I've had so much experience in trying to deal with different races and backgrounds. Fortunately, because of my skin tone or my facial structure or whatnot, I can try to be as many different ethnicities or races as I can be. Sometimes I always want to go back to what I might call my roots, and enjoy black culture and be able to associate with individuals that have the same passions or the same interests as me.
I didn't think about my multiracial background too much before I came to Stanford because I went to a mostly white high school, and my neighborhood in grade school has all white people, so I just consider myself white. But now that I'm at Stanford, I definitely come into contact with Asians more, and I been trying to learn more about being Korean.
I just haven't particularly felt any strong affinity towards the Asian American community at Stanford. I have friends who are Asian American on an individual level, but I've gone to some of their events, and I feel like at times they do become very stereotyped. Just to be very honest, they become about getting boba or about eating Asian food or things like that, which to me are cultural elements, but that's not what it's really about.
Well, I went to the Korean Students Association last Wednesday. It was my first meeting, but at the same time, it's also hard to get into a group like that when you've already been on the outside for a while.
I think that people are really nice and really accepting of others, but there's not really a space for mixed race kids in specifically the Asian American community, and from what I've heard, not so much in the other communities as well. I've thought about this a lot, and I've never really identified with being Chinese American or being white. Most people who are white don't identify with being white, so that sort of doesn't make sense in the first place. And being Chinese American, in terms of what I was talking about being around Chinese American kids who had a very different background, different immigration story, different family histories than me, I never really felt like I was part of that. And it's not like I felt excluded from them, but I just didn't feel like I was one of them.
Ironically, I was a part of Ragapella. As well as a Diwali dance group. So I've been considered a member of, they say an honorary member of the Desi community. But I've also taken Arabic for 2 years, so I kind of consider myself to be a part of the Arabic community because I've done a little dancing in that as well. But then again, I go to a lot of the Black Student Union events and a lot of the Latino events. So like I said, I try to identify with any and all cultures that people happen to perceive me to be.
MIX is an acronym, MICS, which stands for Multiracial Identified Community at Stanford. Once I discovered this term HAPA, and I discovered what it means, I discovered how there's sort of a mixed race movement going on in the US. Once I sort of figured out that it's a bigger thing, it's not just me and my own personal identity issues, I became more comfortable identifying as mixed race, as a separate thing. So my personal thought on it is that being mixed race or being multiracial means that you're something completely different. It's a completely separate experience from being white and Chinese. And it doesn't work to say that you're half one and half of another. I know sometimes for mixed people in Japan, they refer to themselves as doubles rather than half one thing and half of another, so you're one whole thing and one whole other thing.
I received a lot of the emails to go to mix events, and to me, I would rather try to learn about specific races and races that tend to grasp a specific culture, a specific language, a specific music, a specific food, rather than simply put a bunch of people in a room that have different backgrounds and people that came from different cultures like me, just because I'm able to learn more.